let me ask you in regards to Mante. I think you and I are both on the same page that when you talk about the Foreigner Mount Rushmore, it's Ricochet, Pac, and Mante in some sort of order. And then you want to go Jack Evans, you want to go Rich Swann, you want to go Bandito or Flamita. I think those guys have a question there. But let's talk about the top three here. Just off of this moment alone, this Korakuen Hall closer, which comes off of a year where Luis Mante has been in a number of massive moments, where does he rank historically with Ricochet and Pac? And if he's not at the top of the list, what is going to help him surpass those guys in your eyes?
Okay, so next year we'll have a long talk about Ricochet and his Dragongate tenure. Like we're coming up on an important anniversary in 2024, so I think the real kind of positioning right here, at least for me personally, for the near term, Pac is number one, and that's cemented just for the near term. That's not something that cannot be reassessed in a couple of years down the road after Mante gets this run. But at this moment, it's really, you're talking about him and Ricochet, and Ricochet doesn't have this kind of emotional moment. It is something where, yes, he was a part of Monster Express and the Team Best Friends thing, but everyone knows who Tozawa was really excited about, right? Like everyone knows it was Uha, it wasn't Ricochet. And I think that that's something that will have him at this point where I do think he lags behind Ricochet, if only just because of counting stats, for lack of better terms, case. I think that he has the intangible that he'll be able to cross by Ricochet pretty quickly on those counting stats, whereas Pac is still a little bit in the distance in my mind.
Well, let me ask you this. What do you think? Okay, so Mante has this great moment. What's the Ricochet equivalent of that?
I mean, that's the hard thing. Is it him joining Monster Express? Is it like Tozawa saying it like
how did he get there? I don't remember how Tozawa, was there an angle, or did he just kind of show up in orange one day?
Oh, this was all after how miserable Tozawa was after he got kicked out of Mad Blankey. And he was teaming with his friends, which were Shingo Takagi and Uha Nation. Uha comes back in this big team best friends versus Mad Blankey thing when he's still a member of Mad Blankey, and he refuses to fight his best friend. And that's how Uha joins. Do not remember Ricochet whatsoever.
Yeah, interesting.
There just isn't that moment for him.
No, because he won the Triangle Gate belts on his first tour, but it was a victim of circumstances. It was Final Gate, it was Warriors International, and it doesn't have, I don't have a fond memory associated with that. The Brave Gate match where he beats Pac in Osaka is a great match, but it's not it wasn't like he was a made guy. The Yoshino thing, I think, feels important to us, but it doesn't have that, oh my God, it's not a moment that I don't think Dragon Gate fans really think of fondly, universally.
Well, we think of it as the encyclopedia entry for the first foreigner to win the Dream Gate.
Yeah.
That's it.
I was just thinking a few days ago, because I keep on saying the Tozawa stuff on my timeline, and then I'll see I'll see Ricochet do a moonsault, and they're like, man, Triple H is really letting him cook. And it hit me. He's been in WWE so long now.
Yeah.
I think there are people that listen to this podcast, or people that listen to Rich and Joe or Jesse Collins, smart, intelligent wrestling fans who don't know that Ricochet was really the best wrestler in the world for 5 years. It's hard to explain what 2014 Ricochet was and then what 2016 Ricochet was. He did it twice, where MVPs in sports, in the NBA, MVPs are often built on narratives. And there were 2 different years where Ricochet was it's mine, guys. I'm actually going to go all around the world and just take all these titles and win all these tournaments. But he's been gone for so long now. There are people that have never seen good Ricochet.
So 2014 was the thing I was alluding to with Ricochet. There might be a show mini series or something coming about that in the next year, but it is something where like he has the accolades and the counting stats, and at one point you could argue that if you are talking counting stats and kayfabe, by and large, no one had as a successful calendar year in wrestling as Ricochet had in 2014. Like, it's just he won so much. Like, essentially is what that boils down to. But he doesn't have these moments, and I think some of that also is the way that he was teamed with Shima in a very protected role that no one has ever been kind of baby birded as much as a wrestler as Ricochet was by Shima. And
no,
I think
I'm gonna talk about it in the next segment. Actually, there's this Shima Ricochet moment I want to talk about.
Yeah. Let's put a pin in that part of it. But like,
baby birding, by the way, is a great way to describe that.
I mean, there's no other way.
No, it's right on the money.
There's no other way. But I guess like the thing that's going to be so interesting about this with Mante, as we compare and contrast him against the other two, is Ricochet, we kind of saw essentially like coming in spiked Mohicans Ricochet to the point where he was Dreamgate champion, and then he was bigger than, and then came back and stopped by, but it was not necessarily doing the big steps in front of the hometown fans. But though, like, all these things happened, and people would hear about it because it was Ricochet of Dragongate, and he would have the dragon mark next to him doing it, but it was not happening in front of these fans. Pac.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say Pac leaves, goes away for essentially 7 years, and you don't see the transformation with it. With Diamante, or with Luis Mante, we get to see it play out in front of us. We've seen it happen in front of us since 2020, since 2019, since this guy showed up and we were going, what is this guy doing here?
He was horrible.
He was.
We said he was maybe the worst foreigner they've ever brought in.
And we've seen him progress now to the point where last week in front of him was 1,350 fans in Korakuen Hall. It was the loudest moment in the company in years. And yes, some of that is the fact that cheering and all of that. But case this is not a fan base that was known to be silent during the pandemic. We got to see something special there. And I think that in of itself is going to make the comparison of Mante versus Pac, Mante versus Ricochet going to be so interesting over the next 18 months, because we get to see the elevation happen, play out in front of us, whereas we weren't necessarily given those moments with the other two.
So remind me again. So your order is Ricochet, Pac, Mante.
No, Pac, Ricochet, then Mante,
okay.
And pretty big distance between Pac and Ricochet.
Okay, all right, I follow now. Yeah, I'm with you. Pac is my number one, and I think it's going to take a Mante Dreamgate run to maybe dethrone him there. I do really feel like Mante and Ricochet are neck and neck right now, and I'm kind of just waiting on that next thing, and I don't know what that is, but I think 3 or 4 months from now, something's going to hit us, and I'm going to come on and say, remember that conversation in November? It's happened, and Mante is now the guy that we have to look at as genuine foreign excellence. And, Ricochet was not a shoo-in when he came over, but I think 2010 Ricochet was further along than 2019 Diamante. 2007 Pac was not a shoo-in, but I think he was further ahead than 2019 Diamante. The growth that this guy has made in less than 5 years is the greatest testament to, if you go to Dragongate, you will get better.